Okay, looks like I finally got this thing going here. Give me a second to finish setting this up while it connects. As per usual, learning new things to troubleshoot on the fly. But after a brief moment of panic, I think I figured it out. All right, this is good. We'll call this progress. Welcome everybody. I'll switch over to the camera here in just a second. Trying to take care of setting up all the other things that need to be turned on. And we'll get going here in just a couple of seconds. Okay. Connected. And we're on. Okay. Switch this over. There we are. It's live. All right. Hey, everybody. Welcome. It is Wednesday. Mike. Guess what day it is? It is Hump Day. Today, what we like to do on this stream is, talk about stuff that athletes would, typically experience from, performance context, and address some of the things that some of the challenges that many players often are faced with. And with it being Hump Day, we like to use this theme to talk about strategies that can help athletes get over the hump. So that's what we'll do tonight. Again, some of these things will, certainly they will be focused around, how they apply in a sports context and a performance context. But I think they can definitely also impact or be relevant in other areas of your life. So whether that's school and academics or anything else, I think certainly that's one of the beauties that I believe, sports has certainly taught me, is that the things that I learned through sport are applicable in all aspects of my daily life. So welcome to our stream, our getting over the hump strategies for, dealing with pressure. Looks like I had a typo here, so let's fix that. I glance over here and just make sure that everything's working the way it's supposed to. Kate, hi Kate. Kate says message, I don't know what happened there. But if that reminds me, might as well mention that in the chat there are certainly you need to be connected and signed into your YouTube to comment in the chat. If you type a message in there, and it doesn't show up, I don't know, it could be that your message was too long, could be that it included a link, and link sharing is not allowed in this chat. So that's typically what could happen there. And then I banned like over 1,200 words and some emojis. So like, if it contains one of those, then also it would automatically get deleted or removed. So, think about that. But at any rate, hi Kate, appreciate you being here and stopping by. Hopefully some of the stuff that we talk about tonight will be useful information. Maybe it'll apply, maybe it won't, or maybe it can just be a tool that you stick that knowledge kind of in your back pocket or put it in your toolbox, and it's always there if you need it in the future. I've along those lines, kind of just covering looking at what I had thought about starting the night off talking about. I've typed them up here for everybody to see. And, depending on where the conversation goes and questions that anyone who joins us here tonight in the stream, if we have questions, you have questions about other stuff, then you can ask them here, and I'll do my best to to either, offer up some advice and recommendations from experience and knowledge, or, at least help you figure out, where you can get the answers that you're looking for if I don't have them. Let's see, microphone's on. Okay, good. So, I don't know if we'll watch video. I certainly hope. I don't know if I have video that specifically applies to, these topics. I think mostly it's about kind of the stories that I've had or encountered from as a player and also as a coach, and helping players work their way through, through their playing careers and in their pursuit of their playing goals. So we'll start there. And let's see, it's 5:40, so we'll go ahead and just dive right into it. One of the things that I really spend a lot of time thinking about is, how to help athletes in their pursuit of excellence, in their pursuit of their short and long-term goals. There's going to be a moment where an athlete's going to experience a little bit of pressure. And, depending on how you approach those moments, those big games, those big matches, how you frame your assessment or thought process of what the experience entails, even the language that you use can either facilitate successful performance, positive performance. It can be uplifting, or it can be detrimental too, right? And kind of take you out of your game or off your game, or knock you off your your focus. And so my advice as far as pressure goes is, the first thing to do is start with using appropriate language to think about and talk about pressure. And what I'm talking about is, like, when we say things or phrases like handle pressure, how we're going to handle the pressure, or how we deal, so quote, deal with pressure. Even those two words can frame pressure in a negative way, and that can lead to more stressful or distracting, paths of thought. And so what I found it to be helpful, and my recommendation to you now, is to reframe how you think about pressure, and use words instead of handle or deal with. Use words more like challenge, right? And thrive and embrace. And when we look at challenge, redefine it or reframe it as for what it is. It's a challenge, right? What we're feeling pressure because we're in a moment in this tournament or match that is a challenge, that the stakes are high, right? We must win this game, stuff like that. And I have to play well. You start thinking about those kinds of things. If we can just call it what it is and say, hey, this is a challenge, and use words more like thrive and embrace. If we embrace the challenge, then it helps us sort of recognize that, hey, this is not a threat necessarily to me. It's not something that I really need to be overstressed about. It's simply a challenge and an opportunity to better myself, right? So I don't know how I'm going to come out on the other end in terms of the outcome and the result. I may get what I want, I may win or and perform well, or I may not. But either way, this is a moment and opportunity to better myself. And I think what I've seen and certainly what I believe is helpful with this type of thinking is it allows you to lean forward, lean into what's ahead of you, right? And instead of leaning back and shying away from, or feeling really stressed or uncomfortable with with what's in front of you. So give that a try, right? I know it sounds simple, and a lot of these things I think really do sound simple, but I think it's also true that sometimes the simplest answer is the best, and I've certainly I'm trying to think of an example that I can give you, or a story where I've witnessed this firsthand, and I think there's a lot of stories out there. Maybe you even have one yourself, but it's important to, I guess, those pressure moments really are this opportunity to just kind of test where you're at, right? Or if it were easy and you never got to experience pressure and challenge and these big moments, like some people call it these Olympic moments, right? Maybe you've never been to the Olympics, or maybe you don't see yourself playing in the Olympics, but if we don't, we're all still going to have our own Olympic moments, right? These big games. For me, I'm thinking about when I played, like, volleyball was a new sport for me. I played basketball, gymnastics. I did a lot of, sort of like, they used to be called extreme sports. So snowboarding, BMX riding, downhill mountain biking, skating, all that kind of stuff. Never played volleyball. And it looked like I was going to try basketball, but when I got to high school and I realized that, man, I'm not having fun playing basketball and I'm not very good at it, I discovered that volleyball could maybe be a possibility, but I'd never played before. So a big moment for me was like deciding I want to go and try out and try to make the JV team. And I remember that I felt nerves, right? And it's something that I really hadn't felt before in basketball and even in gymnastics and my other sports. I really hadn't felt that kind of pressure, that stress. But I think I was fortunate that, through my other involvement in other sports, somewhere along the lines, either somebody taught me or I picked it up on my own, that, pressure is what I'm looking for, right? What I'm hungry for, because I know that it means I've pushed myself and gotten to a point, like I've hit my ceiling, right? And because I've gotten to that point, now what I want to do is raise it even higher, right? See how high up I can go, and so that's all it is, right? And it's certainly a challenge, but I've personally experienced it as something that has helped me better myself, improve, elevate my game, and that's always fun. So that's kind of the first tip that I have for you guys tonight. The other thing I think that relates to this that I think is important to talk about is, like, sometimes what knocks us off our game is trying to do too much. We've gotten to the point where we accept the challenge, we recognize it for what it is, and we're ready to take it on full steam ahead, no holding back, and we're leaning into this. We have to be careful, right? Because when we're in these high performance, high stress, high stakes settings, we also need to ensure that we are allowing ourselves to perform at our best, right? And there's a optimal level for all of us, right? You can think of it as flow state, or you can think of it as, like, I don't know, those moments when you feel like you're on your game, right? Okay. It can be a little bit different for everybody, I don't know. I've read about players who say they play better when they've got a little edge to them, right? Other players that have even gone through our program and shared with us, they thrive. They really feel like they thrive on these bigger high stakes games. But at any rate, what I'm trying to get at is, we want to be careful that we don't psych ourselves up too much, right? Because we can get outside of this optimal level of performance or arousal or intensity and focus. And all of a sudden, we're trying to do things that we don't normally do, right? Things that we haven't proven to ourselves that these are things that work, that work for me. And so, my recommendation there is try to understand and be aware of like what your optimal level of focus is, intensity, emotional sort of, when I say like arousal, I guess I mean like, how fired up, how psyched up you get. Maybe you were like me and you were the kind of player that really liked to listen to high tempo, high energy, music before the game. Or maybe you're like some of my old teammates who would the anticipation of the match would get them really worked up, right? And so that would kind of get them outside their comfort level or their optimal level for performance. So they needed to listen to music that brought them down, that calmed the nerves a little bit. Okay, so it really can go both ways. So I would say, be aware of that. Understand that it can happen, right? We can be too excited, or we can be not excited enough, and stick to what stick to your routine. And I think it's been recommended and proven to be helpful. You see a lot of high performance athletes that keep a journal, right? And they write in their journal, and it's like keeping a log of what they experienced that day, and then they reflect a little bit. But it's good because you're kind of tracking where you're at that day, and then you can always refer back to it. And as you reflect and read through your journal or your notes, maybe then you can see like a pattern, right? A pattern will start to appear. Certainly when you're tracking, like, okay, when did I feel like I was playing at my best? When I was really locked in the zone. So journal can be helpful for that too. And then okay, so now that you've identified sort of what works for you, now you can develop a routine, and stick to that and check in with that. And I'm sure it would be something that might grow and evolve and change over time. But if you find that the journal concept works for you and you can stick to that, then again, you're just kind of like making it easier, where you don't always have to try to recall from memory, like, how did that work? What did I do? What did I eat that day? How much sleep did I get? What did I listen to before the match? And it can just be all there in your notes. So now the other thing I wrote down here for us to talk about and kind of wrap up the idea of thriving under pressure and embracing the pressure is this idea of positive shift in focus. Okay, it is a great tip because there are many things available to you that if you're open to it and you're looking out for it, it's not like any one thing. It's just anything that you can do to shift your mindset, your focus, your attitude, towards something more positive, even in the slightest little bit. It can have a tremendous effect on your performance and helping put you back on track to getting into the zone, right? Not being distracted by the pressure or the outcome, or what we like to say, what we like to term as irrelevant things, right? We're focusing on these irrelevant things that really does us no good as far as like helping us perform better, then it's irrelevant, right? And we don't want to be thinking about those things because all they can do is they can hurt, but they can't help, right? So they're irrelevant to us when we're playing and competing. when you can shift your focus and attention and all this stuff I was talking about to anything a little bit more positive, it can anything from that makes you feel better, happier. Those always work. More relaxed, right? I think last week we talked about some breathing exercises to help with relaxation. Maybe it's something that you shift your focus to something a little bit more confident, right? Like a reminder, hey, I've been here before, right? And it worked out last time, right? So that recall of having been here before can maybe help give you a shot of confidence in that moment. Focusing on what you can control, right? That's a big one. And I think I know I talk about that a lot when it seems like things are unraveling a little bit in the middle of a game. We can get back to focusing on what we have control over. That can create a real sort of feeling of calm, of a reset. Like, okay, right, everything was going bad. We can't control all of those things. Let's just focus on one or two things that I can control, that we can control. It really does help a lot. I mean, it's kind of like, I don't know how. What comes to mind right now is I'm trying to like paint a picture of it. It's like, when you're losing it, right? You're losing your mind, and your friend just kind of like slaps you in the face, like, get a grip, get yourself together. That's what's coming to mind right now. And not that we need to be, and I'm certainly not suggesting you do that in in a match with your teammate, but what I am suggesting is maybe a reminder, if it seems like we're totally lost focus on things we have control over, we need to immediately, in that moment of recognition, like, tell ourselves to get back to it. Hey, focus on this pass, focus on our breath, right? Focus on our side of the net, our communication, our energy, right? Our eye contact. A big one too is coming together, right? In between points. So that's something that if you're wondering to yourself, how can I help my team perform better or win more points? I was a DS and a libero, so like, for me, I almost never scored points. So how could I help my team win more if I'm not the setter, if I'm not the hitter? It seems limited, right? Well, there are things. I can help us win more by ensuring that if things aren't going well, or we just gave up 4 or 5 points in a row, if I just make sure everyone comes back together between this next point, makes a little eye contact, resets, we win the next point, I know that I have probably played a part in that, because you can't play out there or get yourself back in the game if you're just focused on things that are outside of your control, what the opponent does, who they set, where that hitter hits, all that kind of stuff, what the ref does, good or bad calls that they make. So that's a huge one. And I talked about shifting your mood, your attention, your emotion, but yeah, we're talking about just shifting your focus and things that can enhance your focus. And a big one too, and I think sometimes, usually not, but sometimes, one thing to help alleviate stress, to calm the nerves. I mean, there are real like biological, neurological, physical things to this, right? The chemistry inside of our body. Like, if we are experiencing stress and anxiety and just a woe is me, things are out of our control, there's no coming back in this game. Sometimes players will laugh, right? Like, something silly, stupid, a bonehead play will happen, and it's like, on the one hand, you're thinking this is not the time to be laughing, but you see players do it a lot, right? At all levels and at all ages. And I think that laughter in that moment gets kind of a bad rap, because it's actually a way to alleviate stress, to dial down physically, your physical response to the stress that you're experiencing. And it can have a real uplifting and quick shift to your emotion, to your sense of joy. And again, like I said, this is true. Anything that can help shift you in a more positive direction, make you feel happier, more relaxed, more confident, experience more joy, those are things that are going to have a huge uplifting, positive effect on your performance. It's really going to be a powerful thing that can help you get over the hump. Okay, especially when it comes to performing under pressure, or you're playing in a big game, and things aren't going well for you guys. If you watch my team play, my team, Adam and I, our team, okay, you're going to see a ton of joy. You're going to see a lot of joy from Adam as he's going up and down the sidelines and he's coaching. And one thing that he knows, he likes to say these days that he's not a master coach, but he's been doing this a long time. And I would say he is. He is nonstop joy, positivity, praise on that sideline, high energy. And I think whether he knows it or not, he keeps doing it, and we love it, because it's one of those things that always helps create more uplifting, more performance enhancing emotions, focus, energy, all those things. Okay, so, and you see it in our players too. We certainly, I've learned in the four years that I've been here now with NPJ, is this is probably more so than the scouting work that we do, and the interactions we have from a knowledge and tactical X's and O's standpoint. Our ability to create a team culture that no matter what, no matter they make good or bad plays, the effort's there, whether they're going to make bonehead plays, right? We always have to ensure that they're able to experience joy and fun and happiness while they're out there playing, good and bad, because we know that that's kind of like going to be that secret sauce that if things are not going well, at any moment, if any of those things can be triggered, that's going to turn it around for us. And I kind of wish Adam was here, because he often will say in these moments that when we need to turn things around, is he'll ask the team, like, hey, like, what does it take to get back in this game? I'm phrasing it a little bit differently by mistake here, but I'll give you get the point. He'll ask the players, like, what does it take to get back in this game? And they all say, almost in unison, like, 1 point, just 1 point, right? I think he says, like, what does it take to start a run, right? If we're down by 4, we want to get back in this game and take the lead. What's it take to start a run? And they all say 1 point. And that is certainly what we're talking about here, as far as like a sense of control or focusing on something you can control, because you at least feel like in that moment, hey, we can win 1 point, right? I know we maybe just gave up a lead or gave up 3 or 4 in a row there, but we have to win 4 to get it back, right? But that can be daunting and overwhelming and even more stressful. So if we just reduce it down to one thing we can control, then all of a sudden we can take the floor again, feeling, instead of feeling down, we can feel like empowered, uplifted, confident, like, all right, this is going to happen, right? And it's going to start with this next point that we're going to win. Cool. See here. Yeah, well, anyway, that's kind of my take on pressure, challenge, being aware of, trying to do too much, and a simple positive shift in your focus. I'm wondering, there was, as I was thinking about what I want to talk about tonight on this stream, there were a number of different things that that I had thought I wanted to cover and talk about. So I'm just going to check over here to see if in the chat, if anyone has questions. If you do have questions or a topic, you can, send it to me, comment that down in the chat. If you are not logged in or signed into YouTube, obviously then you would need to sign in first, and then you'd be able to comment there. If you don't have a YouTube account, or haven't activated, or you have one and you haven't activated your like your channel, create your channel, there is a link to a video with instructions on how to do that, and it's pretty simple. Let's see, it looks like I'm just trying to grab that here. Okay, copy that, and there we go. Okay, it worked. Okay, so that link would be, I think it's like a 3-minute video on how to get yourself signed up with YouTube and create a channel. I wonder if I have, I was kind of hoping that maybe, I know I said I didn't really have video planned as far as performance stuff. I'm wondering, do you have some really good, there was a documentary a while back, what was it called? Winning? I think it was called Winning, from 2016. And there were some fantastic interviews there with some of the world's best athletes. And they talk about, handling those high pressure situations, how they, again, caught myself, I shouldn't say handle, how they were able to thrive in those pressure situations, and are able to embrace the challenge. I would love to show that. I'm a little worried about copyright infringement. So let me sit and think about that, whether or not we'll go there. But hopefully everyone's doing okay. How is everybody tonight? I know it's Wednesday and it's Hump Day, and when at least when I was a player in school, certainly I always looked forward to Wednesday because I knew it was like halfway through the week, right? And that it would be all downhill from there. What else we got? Last week, actually no, 2 weeks ago, I had shared a book that I don't think I shared this with everybody last week. But it was recommended or asked that, maybe I recommend some good reading material or books that I've used over the years. Again, I've been doing this 18 years now, and my background is in psychology and a little bit of sports psychology stuff. However, I never finished my graduate studies in sports psychology because a year into it, I kind of changed where I wanted to get my graduate studies from, right? So the coursework I was doing to get my degree in sports psychology ended up being much more like counseling psychology based. And I was like, that's not where I want to go with this, right? I don't want to be a a counselor or mental skills trainer. I wanted to be a coach. So so I put that on hold, and then I went and took a collegiate coaching job, and I spent 6 years coaching in the college ranks, and that was kind of like the way I looked at it was that was my graduate school work, right? I never really intended to stay long term in collegiate coaching, but I left the I was open to the idea, like, hey, if that's where my career path goes, then that's fine. But getting into it, I how I approached it was, if nothing else, this is going to be a great learning opportunity for me to, elevate my game in terms of a coaching perspective or knowledge. Turns out I knew what I wanted all along, and that I would eventually get out of college coaching, and that's what I did, and here we are today at MPJ. But yeah, that's that's my story. The book that I was referencing last week, see if I can hold it up to the camera here where you guys can see it. Yeah, okay, Mind Gym. I bought this, oh man, I want to say 10 years ago. Maybe a little bit more than 10 years ago. I'm trying to figure out when it was even printed. 2001. See, I started coaching in 03, 04. So, yeah, this is definitely one of the early books that I got, and it's called Mind Gym: An Athlete's Guide to Inner Excellence by Gary Mack. And it's fantastic, and it's really what's fun about these kinds of books. They're so good, and you don't have to read them like cover to cover. You don't have to read them. You can flip to any chapter. You can look at the table of contents and kind of just see, like, hey, is there something here that applies to me and where I'm at right now that might be helpful or useful. And I think the book's like 12 or 15 bucks. So yeah, if you're interested in that kind of stuff, if you haven't heard of that book, it's actually a really popular book among coaches, at least. I don't know how many players learn about it or find it, but yeah, it's there. And if you want to know more about that, you can, if you want a link or something, I can do that. So we talked about pressure. Again, to recap, if you weren't there for the first part of the conversation, it was just we need to change the language that is commonly used when thinking about and talking about pressure. Okay, so I caught myself a moment ago. We don't want to use words like handle and deal with, or phrases like that. We instead want to use words like challenge, thrive, and embrace. Okay, things that put these pressure moments in the right context. There are opportunities for me to better myself, for me and my teammates to better ourselves, and so that's why we want to we want to stop using language like handling pressure or dealing with pressure. Challenge, again, that's the interesting thing I think to me about challenge. We've been talking about it in this context of Olympic moments and high stakes, high pressure situations. But challenge is important for all things sports related, because if you're engaged in an activity that's not challenging you, it tends to be really boring, or it tends to be not all that interesting. Not always, but I think certainly in a sports context, if you're never being challenged out there on the floor, whether it's queens or tennis or full 6-on-6 scrimmaging, I think after a while you get bored. Okay, so it's now we're starting to talk about this challenge point. it's big in you know, PE teachers, coaches. We talk a lot about challenge point. We have to figure out what the right challenge point is for the athletes we're working with, because if we don't set it at the right place for them, we could lose their attention. We could lose your interest. It could just get real boring, right? And you know, again, so it's, if you look at it in that way, I think it's really interesting and helpful too, because you know, I don't know why. I have a feeling, but you know, when we get into these high stakes game, all of a sudden we stop looking at this as like challenge. We stop looking for the challenge, because we found it, right? We found the challenge. Here's the wall. Here's the ceiling. And then we start thinking about, and we start calling it something else. We start calling it pressure, and now we're making a big deal out of it. And then that's kind of how you get into that sort of, I don't want to say destructive, but that that high stress, irrelevant train of thought. So think of it more as like a challenge. Relaxation techniques. You know, if you missed it last week when we had talked about that, I think one thing at least worth talking about tonight is that, like many things, relaxation techniques practice takes practice. Okay. And although it can have an immediate effect right there in that moment, right? These deep belly, what do they call it? I'm thinking of this word. I don't know if there's a word, but diaphragmatic breathing, right? So instead of your shoulders going up and down, but your belly is expanding. What I have learned is that when your diaphragm like pushes on the I don't know, I'm going to say your rib cage, but when your diaphragm expands and it pushes upward, it actually pushes on this spot that's like somehow connected to your brain, that literally reduces the amount of stress hormones being released, and releases a different kind of hormone that your body has a physical response to. So the reason why it works immediately and you feel it, when you do it early enough, right? So if you do it before kind of things get out of hand and totally off the rocker, if you can catch yourself early enough and use these techniques, right? Take a deep breath, center yourself. Okay, next point. It can have a real physiological effect, and lower your stress level. Okay. And you'll feel that difference, much like you do if you've ever experienced these high stakes pressure moments, and you know, you get sweaty, or your mouth goes dry, or your hands get all clammy, you know, your heart's racing a little bit, like, okay, I'm feeling this moment. That's what I'm talking about. And this deep relaxation, deep belly breathing technique can help dial that stuff down a little bit again, and bring you back more into your optimal zone, right? Which is what we want to get after when we do all this work to position ourselves to play in these big games. Once we get there, we want to be able to do our thing and perform and be locked in and give it our best effort. So that was a long-winded explanation for do these things regularly, you know, 3-4 times a day if you want. You know, I think if you were to do deep belly breathing, you know, in and out 3 or 4 times, and 3 or 4 times a day, it's really like less than 4 or 5 minutes of your day. So you know, work it in there. No reason or excuse not to. We all have time to do that. You guys have anything for me? last week we had talked about towards the end of the stream, we started to talk a little bit about how things were going in school. Hope things are going well. I know it can be tough and it's a challenge, right? But like we talked about tonight, all it is an opportunity to better yourself. Okay, so it doesn't mean it's going to be easy, but you know, embrace the challenge, lean into it. You can do it, and you know, I think it's always good to know that you have support around you with your friends and your family. You have support from your coaches here at MPJ. So we, if this is what you need to hear tonight, you know, if you're dealing with you know, stress in a school setting, you've got what it takes. You know, you've got what it takes to get it done. You know what to do. So you know, stick to it. You got this. Got here. I think that you know, we're talking about school. Trying to think. You know, there's I don't know if y'all experience this, but I know, like, when we set goals for ourselves in volleyball, and maybe it's your goal is to make your school team or be a starter on your team, play in college, right? Like, make varsity, whatever your goal is. You know, I think that what you're going to find is if you write those things down, that can be a useful thing to help getting you over the hump. You know, I think that one of the common, you know, every year, you know, I know that I'm going to have one or two conversations with athletes who have their goals, they've written them down, and they're not accomplishing them. Okay. And so then maybe, you know, time's passing or time's running out, and it's like, okay, I got to act. I got to do something. You know, if I want to achieve these goals, I need to do something. A lot of times what happens there is an athlete will come to me or a coach and say, I want to play more. Right. And, you know, if the hump that we're dealing with, or what we're talking about right now, is this hump of how do I go from, you know, not playing to playing, so that, you know, I can achieve my goal of, like, making my school team next year, or you know, moving up a level with my school team. We come to the coach and say, I want to play more, right? To a coach, what a coach hears in that moment is me, I want to play. And I'm not saying that that's wrong. I think what I'm trying to get at is, a lot of times coaches can't help but feel in that moment like, you know, they start to think, oh, this player is just asking for more playing time, and hasn't earned it yet, or whatever. And I would say to you, you know, usually that's probably not what you are saying, right? You're just trying to communicate, I have this goal, and I've identified that I need to play more so I can maybe achieve it. My advice is, when you are thinking about approaching the coach and having the conversation about playing time and all that, much like we reframed things with how we think of pressure, I want you to reframe how you think of the need to play more to achieve, to achieve your goals. You have to reframe it, and you have to use different language when you approach this type of conversation with your coach. Okay. And my recommendation is, instead of saying things like, what do I have to do to play more? I want you to say things, I want you to try, or just consider trying a different angle, and say things like, hey coach, what are some things that you feel like I can do to help the team win more, to help the team more? What are some things that you see I could be doing to help our team more? See what we did there? It still has a focus on you and what, you know, you, the coach, identifying things that you can participate is not the right word, things that you can engage with, and do more of. And if you do those things, the coach is saying, I believe this will help our team, right? That's how you sort of, I don't want to say like slide in the back door, but that's how you approach, I think that's how you approach the conversation first, right? And once you do that, and you have a little conversation on what the coach, you know, can identify, like, hey, okay, great, that sounds awesome. I'd love to help you with that. Would love to have a player come to me and say those things. And we can have a conversation of like an impact that they can make, and do more to help our team more. And then when you have that conversation, you say, okay, all right, let's do that. I'm willing to do that. I might need your help, coach. Like, I might not know exactly how to do those things, so I'm willing, and I'm going to ask for your help to, you know, keep me on track there. Then your next conversation can be more about, all right, you know, if you've done those things, then honestly, it should lead to, you know, more playing time. We're not always. I don't want to give you a false, you know, hope there. I know that there are some realities, right? Okay, I may make huge gains and improvement in my own personal game, right? I may better myself, and that will help our team, right, in practice. And as I get better, I become more of a challenge that helps push my teammates. So a rising tide lifts all ships, right? As each player on the team adds more and improves more, that's the tide, okay? And all the ships there are gonna rise together. You know, if it doesn't get you more playing time that you were seeking, you know, you can have more conversations about that. Say, okay, like, coach, do you feel like I'm at a point where, you know, you would consider, if we're up by a lot or down by a lot, would you consider putting me in, right, to get some more playing time and playing experience? Don't ask for the whole thing yet, right? Don't say, hey, give me the whole plate, I did what you said, right? Okay, you still have to do what the coach identifies in the list that they give you. But on top of that, you also have to beat out the other players, okay? So don't get it twisted. It is all about the work and the effort, but you know, there are other players that are involved. But I think it's worth, and this is a conversation that I don't often have, right? I don't know why players don't ever, honestly, I've never thought of this before, but I think more players could say, okay, coach, you're telling me where I'm at. I can see the writing on the wall. I get that I've made improvements and it feels good. And I identify I'm not beating out the starters. Okay, fine. If we're up by a lot or down by a lot, do you feel like I've maybe done enough to earn an opportunity to play more in those moments? You know, or if it's not a high sort of stakes game, you know, or if it's a friendly, right? So think about that. That could be, I think, a useful sort of way to get over that hump of how can I get myself on the court on the court more. Okay. And if nothing else, certainly play as much volleyball as you can. All right. So if it's showing up early and hopping on the court and playing, if it's attending other practices that are going on that you can attend, do that. I love when I see, people sharing photos of them out there playing at the park or on the beach courts or whatever it is. Play as much as you can. Okay. And that will go a long way and help you get over the hump of, towards earning more playing time. Okay. Where are we at? Oh, wow. Kate, thank you. This was really helpful. Kate, you're welcome. Have to go eat dinner. Okay. No worries. I don't know if you're still here or not, but if you are, you're very welcome. Thanks for hanging out, and have a good dinner. If you're not here, then thank you, and I do appreciate that. I had this file folder blocking the chat, which I got to remember not to do that. Yeah. So this will be available on, it'll still be available online. This is a hidden video link though. So I would just make a note if you received an email for this stream link tonight, save that and reuse that same link to access the video or share with your other friends or teammates. If you didn't receive an email, no problem. You can find the link for this on our Facebook social media, and just kind of go to our MPJ Volleyball Facebook page and scroll down and find it, and you'll see the link for tonight's stream, and you can replay it from there. Cool. Well, thanks again, everybody, for hanging out and watching. I do hope that helps. Would love to hear if, if you have a story that's similar, or if any of this struck a chord with you, or, when we're able to play and you can utilize these skills and strategies, would, I hope they help, and would love to hear your own personal story or experience of, being in these high pressure moments and challenging situations in volleyball where, and how you responded to those situations. I love hearing those kinds of things. Tomorrow is Throwback Thursday, MPJ Watch Party. We'll be bringing back our guest coach, Steven Stone, for that. And I think we'll be watching, we talked about it, we're going to watch another match of our 2018 MPJ 16s team because it was against a really, really good SG Elite team based out of Southern California. So we're going to tap back into that. That's tomorrow night. And again, I believe it'll be at the same time at 5:30. So be on the lookout for either email notification or a Facebook post throughout the day, and we'll see you tomorrow. Thanks, everybody, and have a good evening.